iPad. There he is.
There you go.
That, I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Urban Renewal Agency for April 14th, 2026. First on the agenda is citizen comments. Katie, do you have anything?
I think we called in.
Anybody in the audience have any comments? Quiet crew. Okay, on to the active agenda. Are there any questions or corrections to the minutes for the March 10th?
I'll move the floor.
Second. Do we vote on it? All in favor? Aye. Any against? Motion passes. Approval of invoices. We've got, looks like 4. We want to do these separately?
I would probably suggest doing them separately just because there is one that Butch usually excludes himself from.
Okay, makes sense.
I move we pay Sullivan Legal for $325.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Are we looking at this for the numbers?
No.
Oh, thank you, sorry, I was like, that's a 320.
No, you're good.
Okay, well, Sullivan legal fees have been approved. The ICRMP insurance premium,
I move we pay the premium for $1,319.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Will
Oh,
that be
sorry,
good?
sorry.
That motion passes also. TPC Holdings, over $59.40.
I'll move that. Did somebody move it already?
No.
Okay, I'll move to approve that.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
That motion passes. Oh, no, it hasn't. Any nays?
Which is it?
And I,
You abstain.
you're
You're abstaining. Yep.
I don't think it's enough, but I don't think.
Okay. So that motion passes as well. And the City of Lewiston reimbursement request for East Orchards Sewer Phase 3 construction project
I'll move approval. Second.
for the whole $288,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Who's against? Aye. Doug Haven says no. Motion passes. Review of financial summaries.
Okay, so, we handed out paper copies, because I received these yesterday afternoon. No major changes, so you can see at the top is our increment for each of the 3 open revenue allocation areas. And you can see our interest earned to date. And then expenses that have gone out for this fiscal year. After we pay today's expenses, I'll look at transferring some of that increment over to the state treasurer's pool where it earns us more interest.
Okay,
Any questions?
any questions? Next, we've got presentation by the Public Health and DEQ on groundwater nitrate levels in the Lindsay Creek watershed.
Okay, so I have 3 members from the EPA, yes. Okay, so I'll have you guys just stand up and introduce yourselves. I have your names for the record. And then I'll let you kind of get started, and then Therese, you can jump in wherever is appropriate for you for public health to jump in. Okay, I will turn the board over, the floor over. Okay.
I'm Sujata Cannell, I'm with DEQ, I'm the regional administrator for the Lewiston region.
My name is David McIntyre. I'm a water quality analyst here in Lewiston. I focus on the surface water side of things.
Leanne Chronic, I'm the groundwater analyst for the Lewiston office for DEQ, and I work on the groundwater side. I'm Sharice Bruce, environmental health director from public health. And then I have a PowerPoint.
Absolutely.
It's the PowerPoint on that one.
Okay, I will. But you have the mouse. And we have our shared on our screen.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna be talking about, surface water and groundwater and, around the Lindsay Creek area. So we'll talk about some nitrate information, what is a nitrate priority area, our local Lindsay Creek nitrate priority area. Lindsay Creek and Tammy Creek, their TMDLs and what that means, some nitrogen input, and then our data uses. So, why nitrates? What's the concern with them? So nitrates is just a different form of nitrogen. So it's just an element that's vital to components of food and fertilizer. It's essential for plant growth, but as always, too much of it is a bad thing. So the nitrates that's not used by plants builds up in soil, and that can infiltrate into our groundwater. So high levels of nitrate in the groundwater, we use that as our drinking water here. And that can be associated with harmful health effects in humans, livestock, and it can even negatively affect fish in the surface water. Nitrates is the most common and widespread contaminant in the state of Idaho. And we've had several local residents tell DEQ that they've ceased use of their private wells for drinking water due to high nitrate concerns and the associated health risk.
Could I ask a question before? I don't know how long this is, but what is the depth of the wells where the people are concerned about?
Our nitrates tend to be found more in the shallower wells.
Okay, thank you.
So our three main causes of nitrates are fertilizers, septic systems, and livestock operations. So here's a good example of how it just kind of like seeps through the surface into our groundwater, and then it can be pulled out through wells. So here's some health effects of nitrates. It can cause cancer, long-term exposure has been linked to gastric cancer, colon cancer. There's reproductive issues, endocrine disruption, functions of hormones, leading to thyroid disease. The most common one people know about is the baby blue syndrome. So infants 6 months or under consuming water with high nitrates, they can't process the nitrates, so it robs their blood of oxygen, making them turn blue. So, let's see, here's a map of our nitrate priority areas statewide. So the nitrate priority area, it's just kind of like a boundary where 25% of those sampled wells have nitrates levels at or above 5 milligrams per liter. So the state drinking water limit is 10 milligrams per liter. So these boundaries are made by geostatistical methods. So we plug all the numbers into the computer, and then it kind of just makes like a boundary of this is where issues are concerned are. So it's not just data from DEQ, we use data from USGS, Idaho Department of Water Resources, Idaho State Department of Ag, and then down south, they use the Idaho National Laboratory. And then these boundaries are ranked and updated about every 5 years. So currently, this is our 2020 version. We will be publishing a new one, hopefully in 2027. So here is our Lindsay Creek Nitrate Priority Area. It was created in 2008. Currently, it is ranked 20th out of 35 statewide. It has moderate to high priority. DEQ, we mainly collect our samples from private wells. So this is an entirely voluntary program. So each year annually, I will go out to the Lindsay Creek Nitrate Priority Area. I mail everyone letters asking if they want me to come out and test their well for free. I will do nitrate and bacteria. It is about $110 of sampling that we just will do for them. The data is only informational use only. Private wells are not regulated. So this is just for us to figure out where the nitrate is, kind of like what it's affecting. And it's just informational really for the private well owners. And we've been sampling this since 2006. The goal is to really focus on shallow wells, since we know that's where the nitrates are more likely to be found. So what is a shallow well? So we have 3 aquifers here in the Lewiston Basin. So our shallow well is, or our shallowest one is the Saddle Mountains. We have Wanapum in the middle, and then we have Grand Ronde. So here's a good example of it. So you can see we got Saddle Mountains, tends to go about like to 200, 250 feet deep. We have this clay unit that kind of like restricts water movement down. And then we have our Wanapum. And then we have another clay unit which restricts the water moving down to the Grand Ronde. So here is all of our the data points we've used from the nitrate priority areas from the DEQ sampling divided by aquifer. So the blue is the Saddle Mountain, the green is the Wanapum in the middle, and then the red's the Grand Ronde the deepest. So this graphic so it's taken the average of each well because we do sample some wells multiple times. So here's the average of all the times we've sampled that well put on this graphic. So here's 5 milligrams per liter and 10 milligrams per liter. So you can see that the nitrates tend to be found more in the Saddle Mountains in the shallow aquifer. The Wanapum's kind of got a mix, and then most of the Grand Ronde tends to be on the lower side. There's a few outliers. So here's a map of the last 2 years of sampling, 24 compared to 25. We'll go through the data. So in 2025, I sampled 29 sites. 10 of those were over 5 milligrams per liter. So that was 34%. And anything above 25% makes it an NPA. In 24, there are 39 sites. 14 of those were over 5 milligrams per liter, or 36%. 23 was 15 sites, over 5 milligrams per liter out of 29, so 52%. And then in 22, there was 20 sites of 39 sites, so about 51%. And David will go over surface water.
Okay. So I'm talking about Lindsay and Tammany Creeks. Lindsay Creek is obviously within that nitrate priority area, which is named after. But Tammany Creek, about a good chunk of it, most of the headwaters are also within this nitrate priority area. Lindsay Creek is a tributary to the Clearwater River, while Tammany is a tributary to the Snake River. I said, priority area. Both of these creeks are listed by the state of Idaho as impaired by sediment and nutrients. And under that nutrients is where we find the nitrate. Tammany Creek is also impaired by phosphorus and bacteria. And we have federally approved total maximum daily loads, or TMDLs, for these pollutants in these watersheds. So I'm going to talk a bit about the target concentrations for nitrate in these TMDLs. And again, this is only for surface water. Lindsay Creek TMDL in 2001 developed a target of 2 milligrams per liter. That's based on IDWR reporting from 1995. The concentrations exceeding this level would be outside the natural range of conditions in the state of Idaho. Tammany Creek had a TMDL addendum in 2010 where nutrients were added and developed a target of 0.072 milligrams per liter. And that's based on some EPA data, reference data for the Columbia Plateau ecoregion that was published in 2004. Those are very different targets for these two watersheds, but they are federally approved, and we will stick to them. I will say that the 2 milligram per liter is probably way too high, and the 0.072 milligram per liter is probably so unachievable that it could be regarded as very too low. This is the Lindsay Creek TMDL data from 2001 to 2002 when it was collected. On the y-axis there is the concentration of nitrate, and I've normalized these graphs just across the calendar year to show any seasonal variability. So this is 2001 when we developed the TMDL. This is when we reviewed the TMDL in 2018. And as you can see, we found higher concentrations of nitrate. Following that, based on our watershed advisory group, which is a local community group that advises us on these TMDLs, we continued monitoring. We resumed it in 2021, and we continue it to this day. And this is the data from that continual monitoring. It's gone a little bit lower, generally perhaps, than the 2018 review, but it's still right up there. And again, here is our federally approved target, 2 milligrams per liter. For Tammany Creek, 2007 to 2008 is when we gathered the nitrate information to develop that TMDL. And I reviewed it in 2023 through 2025. And again, we saw an increase in the nitrate concentration. The Tammany Creek target is, as I said, much lower. So in summary, nitrate concentrations in Lindsay and Tammany Creek are much higher than background conditions in Idaho going by either one of those targets. And I just want to emphasize this, that the groundwater from the Saddle Mountains aquifer is probably the significant source of nitrate to Lindsay Creek. We know that Lindsay Creek is largely fed by groundwater. We see that when it rains, the nitrate concentration goes down with surface runoff coming in. Our sediment goes up, our phosphorus goes up, but nitrate goes down as it's being diluted. The effects of this is that we regard these streams as impaired for aquatic life by these nutrients. And these can also cause nuisance aquatic growths that have been reported in both creeks and are likely related to nitrate and probably phosphorus contamination.
Okay, just to clarify something there, I appreciate it. That's really good information. You're saying before you even get to the nitrate, or I mean, to get to the Lindsay Creek area that's maybe within the city or county area that we're dealing with, it's carried down from Saddle Mountain with a significant
It's in the Saddle Mountain aquifer.
aquifer.
Not necessarily Saddle Mountain itself, but the aquifer is named after the mountain.
So it's already in the aquifer.
Yes.
So where's it coming from the aquifer in Saddle Mountain?
Well, it's coming, we believe. This is we'll go through. We have a slide on some input studies.
I'm just trying to figure out the progression that's coming down through the.
I will also add that all those the data points I showed were from the mouths of these two creeks. So we're looking at the entire watershed.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Well, where is it coming from though, in the Saddle Mountain aquifer?
Geographically or like by cause?
By cause.
By cause, that I've got a slide on that I will get to, but there are definitely a variety of sources. We know that still spoiler, but
You can talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We get to the slide. Okay.
so there we go. So we did one of my colleagues who's no longer with DEQ did a sort of modeling study and published in 2024 on the watershed scale, where we attempted to account for all of the nitrogen coming in and going out. And that's right down to everything like atmospheric deposition. We've got livestock coming in and out, we've got crops coming in and out, and we've got our septic systems. We found cropland to be the largest input of nitrogen in the watershed. And it was estimated that septic input accounts for approximately 5% and potentially as high as 31% at the absolute worst case modeling scenario of the input into Lindsay Creek surface water. This was a surface water study. We were unable to fully assess the livestock inputs due to insufficient data, but it is definitely another contributing factor. And we did not assess any nitrogen that is still stored in the groundwater system from historic human activities. These aquifers being fractured rock aquifers, they're not quite so uniform as you expect with sedimentary aquifers. They can have very different rates of transmissivity, and these pollutants can move through them slowly in some areas, faster in others. IDWR has advised us that this potentially could take up to 40 to 50 years sometimes for pollutants to fully transmit through the system. I'll talk a little bit about caffeine and artificial sweeteners. So these are two things that we get in septic systems and that don't occur naturally. Now, properly functioning septic systems remove caffeine very well. Artificial sweeteners are also removed by functional septic systems, although it is variable by the rate of consumption by the household, the septic design, and there is an effect of geology on that. We found that in one study we found caffeine in a domestic well, as well as two of our further up the watershed Lindsay Creek surface water monitoring sites. Not detected at the mouth, but further up we were detecting this. And artificial sweeteners we found in groundwater, surface water, and 80% of the 5 domestic wells that we tested for. These results are indicative of potentially poorly functioning septic systems that are allowing those to escape. Take that easy.
And then here's just kind of some of our data uses. So DEQ has a groundwater annual reports. In Nez Perce County, we have 2 NPAs. The other one's the Lapway Creek NPA, everything east of Lapway. Here's our watershed advisory group meeting. We meet annually and present our findings. There's also this NPA mapper online. IDWR has a groundwater quality mapper as well. Here's the data sources for those, and this is all public information. And then
these are some of the selected surface water reports we've done, including the TMDL documents, and also some evaluations of the presence of septic effluent. And that bottom one there is that 2024 evaluation of nitrogen sources that contribute to surface water and groundwater. So we continue to monitor nitrates in these systems, both the NPA and in Lindsay and Tammany Creek watersheds. And we share this with our watershed stakeholders, and we will revise these as necessary in the future. And we also collaborate with watershed stakeholders to identify and prioritize actions to reduce nitrate accumulation in the groundwater and surface water. And here are our contexts, which we'd be happy to follow up on anything.
What causes a septic system to not function
Well,
properly and let caffeine and sweeteners through?
I mean, it's hard for us to say because we can't really get into them, but it's effectively it's that they're leaking.
Leaking?
Yes.
uniform.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons. Yeah, the system could be hydraulically overloaded, so just too much water going out into it compared to the initial design. It can become organically overloaded, so over time, biological activity will just form a mat, a biomat, and allow that water to penetrate through the soil. It could be under-designed. Sometimes people will say, well, I'm building a 2-bedroom house, so we size it for a 2-bedroom, and all of a sudden it's a 4-bedroom house, so there's a number of people that are using it. Also, geology, we look at test holes hopefully to the depth of about 6 to 8 feet. Sometimes we can't get that deep, if we get a bedrock layer, that could be a limiting layer that could cause the effluent to move horizontally instead of vertically. Comes as what is.
Could I follow up with that though? So, but you permit the septic systems. And then you inspect them being, put in, or you have certified installers do the work, right?
Correct.
And if, okay, you never go back for re-inspections, nobody ever has to do that.
So the permits are installation permits only, not operational and maintenance permits, so
Right.
we will look at the site, evaluate the soils, determine how large a system needs to be, and then we go out to look at the final installation. And then if that can be done by a homeowner or licensed installer, and that's covered up, and then we are not notified.
The homeowner's allowed to put in their own septic system.
A basic septic system.
You don't see any issue with that?
Oh, I see lots of issues with that. It's a state rule. I can tell you that the cost of, us permitting a homeowner install is probably double. And because we're going back multiple times, we're spending just a lot of.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I mean, this is kind of an important system. Not to,
We encourage people to hire installers. Some people just don't have the means to.
that's new, I did not know that. So the other thing you said that there's a layer, that maybe, would cause a standard septic system not to work properly.
The biomat.
But if that's the case, if you can't percolate, whatever, that depth, then you have to put in a different type of system.
Correct.
Right. That takes into account that layer.
You have to have so much effective soil depth, and effective soil depth is how much soil you have that can treat the effluent. So
And
you can't,
that, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
you can't put the drain field on bedrock or
Right.
expect it just to go.
And that system has to be a certified installer.
Correct.
That can't be a homeowner.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, I just was trying to get, more information on septic system. I did not know a homeowner could put in their own. That seems crazy to me.
It's been in the rule since the 70s. Maybe needs to be.
It's like, well, 70s, no, that's probably the reason. These revamp.
And so you're saying that's within the city limits? Anybody that you could put a septic system in by yourself?
Yes. If it's a basic system, like you said, if it's a complex system that requires a pump or any sort of component that's not standard.
So somebody in the city of Lewiston, well, not so much now because it's much more highly restricted, could have put a septic system in by themselves. It could have been a steel drum with holes drilled in it and pipes running out of it.
Yes, but a permit is required, so it's not like we can just.
To
go
get the
do it.
permit, but you don't go back and look
Yes,
at
we
it.
do go back.
Or you do,
You said-
even the homeowner install.
Yes.
I think what you're referring to is a bedroom started like as a 2-bedroom. And then that's what you guys said, yep, this makes sense for a 2-bedroom, and then they added an addition, a couple other bedrooms, but then now they didn't go back to what a new septic tank to account for the extra bedrooms, right?
Correct.
There's no checks and balances for that.
There kind of is with the county, now, if like if a remodel permit comes in, then we'll evaluate what we have on file compared to what they're
Does
proposing.
the county include the city since it's in the county?
Does the county, but
We just say in the county. Is the county the only ones that do this recheck for additions or whatever, or is it city? Because they're in the county.
I think the city does also, there's just more activity in the county as far as.
Septic,
permitting.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
So my question is just around the increase. It seems to me like if, I mean, again, this is my brain, so if a lot of it is coming from agriculture runoff, it seems like isn't for the past like decade or so, it's been stable with the amount of fertilizer and, you know, it just seems like why would it be increasing like that?
We also see an increase in nitrate when we get wetter years. So the more water that passes through the system, it brings more nitrate with it. And whether that's from it falling atmospherically on the surface, infiltrating in and collecting that from perhaps over applied fertilizer, and then bringing it into the streams through groundwater is one possibility. There's also there has been some increased development between those, especially going from the early 2000s to the
Like the septic systems, there's just more stuff.
not just septic systems as well, but lawns, the number of lawns being watered, the amount of fertilizer that goes on there. And that nitrate study, we did try and like work out what the average amount of fertilizer that gets applied to a lawn is, how if they're overwatering it, it's just going straight through, whether fertilizer is being applied at the right rates and effectively is definitely going to be a contributing factor. And when we said the cropping is probably the main one, it is actual cropping, but domestic lawns will have an effect as well.
What causes it to, I don't know if die off's the right word, but because it sounds like it just kind of keeps building up, does it eventually?
I think it eventually denatures, but for looking at the streams, it's going to pass through. So the TMDLs are all phrased as loads, and that's literally pounds. So it's tens of thousands of pounds of nitrate exit the mouth of Lindsay Creek per year. And that's from like the TMDL side of things, that's what we look at it. That's how we get it approved. So we also have to measure like groundwater, surface water flow, concentration, and work out the pounds from that. That's the nuts and bolts of how those are done. But from the surface water stuff is all based on Clean Water Act things, and we DEQ identifies the impaired streams, what they're impaired by, and then that's when I come in, so like comes in and writes the TMDLs, get them down and remove those impairments, get them delisted. We're a long way away from these two.
So did I understand you that after a big rainfall event, nitrates actually reduce and then phosphates go up?
They suddenly, in the short term, when they're very flashy, when we see the water go up from surface water runoff, we see increased sediment, and the sediment seems to bring the phosphorus with it, tied to whereas the nitrate is coming in through groundwater things, because when we don't have the rain, we see the nitrate goes up, but we have flow in these creeks year round. So that is our current understanding of the difference between those two sets of nutrients and the sediment as well.
So, David, I have a couple of these reports. So you're saying you do these yearly, or you've done them yearly for a certain amount of time?
Those ones are groundwater, so.
Yeah, those are the nitrate priority area maps.
Right.
So
And
yes.
you've done this for a period of time.
Yep, we've been sampling annually since, I think it was 2006.
Okay, so these are readily available.
Yes. Yep, I think those are our most recent ones.
It's 25 and 24 compared to 25.
Okay, then yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, the most recent.
Those are yes.
Yeah.
So each year, the goal is to go back to the same well to be able to build a trend, but it's based all on permission. So if like a homeowner is like, yeah, my well is fine, you don't need to come back out, or if they're concerned and want to do some implementation, they can allow me not to come back out. So each year I have to get permission. So it is hard to go back to the same well annually to collect the data and to try to build trends off of it, or if like home ownership changes and things like that. So it's hard to compare between years. And then I've tried to do a trend analysis, and we just don't have enough sites we've gone back to year after year to be able to look at a trend. So there isn't really a trend. We just know the nitrate's there. It's not really increasing or decreasing, but it's there.
Have you ever been asked to provide any of this information to the city or this group?
I'm not aware of being asked to present to this group for this, but we do have representatives from local government in our watershed advisory groups where we do present this, and we also the state publishes this as well.
Publishes it?
Yes.
Yeah, I get that part. So you have members of local government agencies sitting on your
So,
group?
do we have a city person?
Yeah, first off, as with all the meetings, they're public meetings, so anyone can join us. But we do have city representatives who come to our annual watershed meetings. And then in addition, anybody can call us and ask us where this data is, or if it's data that has not been gone through.
Oh, I thought you said they are on the committee, not attending public meetings.
Well, there's a little bit of a difference between on the committee. We don't necessarily have a full committee going right now because we're not in the creating a TMDL
Okay.
mode. But we have annual meetings and they're involved, but they've been involved the entire time.
Right, okay, I get that, okay. So this report, Lindsay Creek watershed data locations, and it's a substantial report of measurements, and it's fairly new, October 14th, 2025. Are you aware of this?
Who published that one? Is that DEQ one or?
It's through as you showed all these partnerships. This is through the Nez Perce County Soil and Water Conservation.
Okay.
You work with them?
We provide data to them and yeah, we work
Do
with
they
them.
provide data to you?
We request it and what they submit to us. And at a TMDL review, we sort of put out the call and we will take everything that everyone else has done, and put that in. And,
Wow. Okay.
but
I was
yes,
curious how much of this data works with your data. Okay.
Don't
Yeah.
believe they do any groundwater, sampling.
I think they deal mostly with like farming practices.
Yes.
And stuff like that.
so that's.
And maybe some livestock. I don't really know about that.
So,
I would say they are a partner. They come to our meetings. We coordinate especially on outreach and
Okay,
remediation.
so they are closer than the average person just going to a meeting. They're more.
I would say, yeah, we're pretty,
Okay.
but I mean, I'd say a lot of our partners, yeah, we work with them. I mean, we call them designated management agencies, so there's
Right.
various cities, counties, et cetera. And so those are the folks who are supposed to be on the ground, kind of doing the reduction work. So yeah, we work very closely with them. And
Lynn Rasmussen was here a few months ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you do your sampling, are you taking samples for caffeine and artificial sweeteners right all the time?
no, those were targeted studies. We really had to like plan and budget for those sort of things. We're not able to do that on a continual basis. It's also more of a presence absence type of study rather than, it's very difficult to look at the levels that are in there and say whether there's a trend one way or the other. We sort of look at that as like an indication that something is coming out of septic into the water.
Sure.
But then it's really just the concentration of nitrate itself from, at least from a service water point of view, that we're seeking to reduce.
So for clarity's sake, what is the purpose of wanting to know the caffeine and sweeteners? Is that to know if there's a leak somewhere?
To know what the sources were, because like there's so many different ways nitrogen can get into the system. And speaking of the conservation district, we call that the implementation site. So they'll take the work we've done that says there's too much nitrate, or in other cases, the water is too warm for temperature or too much sediment. And they'll say DEQ has identified this, it's impaired for this. This is what's in there, this is what the target is. They can do those best practice management efforts with agriculture or livestock to try and reduce that. Both these streams are listed for E. coli, for example, so that's a really easy one. We can just keep livestock and animals out of the channels. Sediment, we look at stabilization, cover crops, those kind of things. So they look to us for the data, and then they can do implementation with their landowner partners and to try and achieve those targets. And it lets them apply for funding sources because they've got like black and white, this is what it is, this is what it needs to be. But so the sweetener, caffeine, was a way that we were trying to determine, is septic a contributor?
Human contribution.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not the chemicals themselves that are
No.
a problem, it's just a way to find the source of what could be.
Yes.
It's an indicator.
This has been we have had indicators of human contamination in this watershed for 10 plus years. We did some previous DNA testing where we did find human DNA paired with very high E. coli levels. So it's, and also additional caffeine testing that showed caffeine in the watershed. So this has been an ongoing problem since we've been working in this watershed.
Rich had a question.
Well, I've never heard a presentation on nitrates, read about it over the years. So thank you, it's been very informative. I think you've conducted nitrate 101 so far.
Great information and well presented.
Our interest as the Urban Renewal Board, of course, rests on, we can't do anything about fertilizers. We can't do anything about livestock. But we have an interest in nitrates, in terms of our project of the East Orchards, sewer district, what's our proper name? East Orchards.
East Orchard Sewer District, that's what it is, yes.
We have an interest in that area because part of what we undertook for conversion of septic systems to sewers, plus new construction of homes, going on the sewer, instead of septic systems, was in part, built upon, improvement of Tammany Creek, water quality. Now, it's a fair assumption, I presume, in the process of graduating from nitrates 101, that going to sewer, as opposed to septic systems, does not add nitrates. It would be neutral.
Yes.
Can you give an assumption of whether, based on your studies, these, how many systems do we have now? Katie, do you recall? Is it close to 100?
Yes.
Yeah.
That I've transitioned, but I think Sharice can talk to how many septics like exist, period, and how many like new ones have been coming on outside of our areas. Do you want me to pull up your map?
That'd be great.
Well, presume it's about 100, combination of conversions and new construction, whatever the number. Can you make any assumption of whether this has had an increase in the quality of water, less nitrates in Tammany Creek?
Don't have data to show that. I would think a new construction that's connected directly to the sewer shouldn't really have any impact on nitrate because it wasn't a septic system before. So it never has been. So it's just, we don't expect a contributing source for new construction that's connected to the sewer directly. For conversions, it's tricky to say. Like I said, for this nitrate study, we found probably 5% of the nitrates from sewer septic systems, but potentially as high as 31, maybe in the worst case scenario. And so then if it's 5%, and I think that study identified something like 814 septic systems existing in that area, although there were some assumptions to that. So if we've taken 800 and gone down 100, if it's only 5%, I don't know how significant we're going to see that impact and when. And especially if we've still got new systems coming online that are septic. Well, the new systems, we wouldn't expect to have as many of those issues. If we've got new contributors of nitrate, then we're sort of working against the conversions as well. So it's a very complicated system, and it's hard to tell what impact 100 conversions will have. Maybe down the line, our data will improve. And also similarly with these groundwater systems, it can take a while for that water to flush through.
But I think part of the point is in an ideal world, we should stop the input. So really the benefit of hooking up new systems to a trunk line is that you're not gonna have, like David said, you're not gonna have that input to start with. So it's not going to make its way to the water table.
And I agree with that, comment. The question is who's paying for it, and that's not in your guys' purview.
Right.
So that's the question on the table is why certain entities are paying for something that's not within their jurisdiction. So, but I agree, source systems should be the way of any modern development. I agree with that.
And I mean, I think it's just a long.
I have two questions and then I'm done here, and I don't know if Butch was done. Did you get your question answered?
I think so.
First off, this presentation is, I could get a copy of that, right?
Yeah.
Do I need to do public records request?
I will just email you.
Okay.
I'll have them send it,
Okay.
I'll attach it to the minute meeting.
Second thing is kind of, you probably haven't been with DEQ since 1995, and you're surely not old enough. So that was the first step when the city took to restricting lot sizes for septic systems in 1995. And that goes back a long way, it's 30 years. What would have been the, what would have been the data, or how was it accumulated back in 1995 that started that concern?
I can't speak to the specific data for that. Like I said, we did the TMDL starting in the 2000s, although I believe that.
There might be, I'd have to go back and look at it, because often a lot of these reports are precipitated actually by, like insect data and fish data that we collect. And other physical pieces of data, so my thought would be that we probably collected in invertebrates.
Okay, I would think that if that was true, that would have been mentioned. I've never heard about fish or. Was the other thing you said, that was never in any minutes of any meeting presented to the city council.
So I guess, well, I'll say this, our whole TMDL program is predicated on collecting fish, insects, and other physical data. So it's oftentimes found in those TMDL reports, but it's available, we have a whole.
So you could provide
Database.
something that was available in 1995.
I'd have to go back, for some places, absolutely. For Lindsay Creek, I'll have to go back and double check, but it is online. It's, okay, sorry, we use an acronym called BER, Beneficial Use Reconnaissance Program. And all of that data is publicly available on our website.
All right,
And anybody can go look at it. You can look at the fish species, life species, all that stuff.
okay, all right,
And also,
thank you.
I also think there was a growth task force that the city had, and maybe, you know, anything
Yeah,
about that.
I was
You're part of
around
that?
for
Okay.
that.
And I think that played into the density that.
No, it had to do with economic development and what would spur economic development. It had to do with, you could build more homes if they were hooked up to the sewer, rather than being restricted to one home per 1 acre. Yeah, it was all economic development driven. So, yeah, I was around with the city at that time.
I'd say for the groundwater side, there have been a few studies in the past, but a lot of our data comes from the public water system. From the Safe Drinking Water Act, they've had to test all of those wells for nitrate, make sure that they're under the safe drinking water limit. So that's kind of how.
Yeah, I would
We
agree
track
with
that
that. I think the
back
shallow well, and the well drilling in general was probably driven a lot of that. Because now most are required to go through the aquifer, to the ground round.
Exactly, yeah.
You can't drill a shallow well anymore,
As the nitrates have gotten higher
Right.
too, they're out
which
of.
makes sense. I wouldn't want a shallow
regulated
well
limits, yeah.
anyway. That's just ludicrous.
I think there is some evidence that maybe some of the older wells do actually cause some cross contamination between the aquifers as well. So we might be getting improperly cased wells that are taking nitrate from high, and it could be some of those.
Absolutely.
You're getting.
Okay, thank you.
I know of at least one well, I think it's on. Somewhere near Hepton Lane down there, where they have 20 milligrams per liter of nitrates in their well because it was improperly cased. So just like double the safe drinking water limit, which is kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
What is the average lifespan of a well?
Forever.
Yeah, people will use them as long as they kind of work, because they'll just replace the pump. And I think the pump can last 30, 40 years.
So people
on a good.
using just a simple
Cistern.
system.
Or
Spraying
there's
system.
even hand dug wells from way back in the day.
Yeah.
Just curious, like inspection wise, like if, you know, how often you know through that?
Just
It's
when
falling
it's
apart
drilled.
or it's leaking.
Yeah, just when it's drilled, it's inspected.
Okay.
And that's through the Idaho Department of Water Resources.
I don't really have much more to add, but I don't have a fancy presentation, but I do have a heat map. This shows from 2020 to 2024 in Nestor County where septic systems were issued, and not surprising that you're seeing, you know, a lot in this area, in the Green watershed. The issue with nitrates is, septic systems do a good job of treating bacteria and pathogens, but not necessarily nitrate. And so nitrate can move fairly quickly through the soil and get into groundwater. So it's just the cumulative impacts of septics. And I was gonna add that we had 814 in 2022, and since then we've added another 100 of them. So we have about 914 now.
Sharice, can I ask you a question? Because you made a comment that kind of contradicts what David had said. Like you said, nitrates move fairly rapidly through the system.
Through the soil to ground.
Yeah, through the soil, to groundwater. But
More-
you're saying that takes some time.
I'm talking about the basalt itself.
The basalt,
Yeah.
When it's in the ground.
through the basalt. Oh,
Right,
okay.
that's fracture.
So they can have like, there's a hydraulic medium to, water flowing downhill basically. But also depending on which way that basalt's been fractured, so I say basalt sometimes too, but it's basalt. Depending on how that's been folded and deformed over time, the tiny little fractures in this, will affect flows. So if it's trying to get downhill, it might have sort of go sideways. It could be slower in some areas, faster in others.
Okay.
They're very hard to do.
Okay.
There is, and I'm sort of going out of my element yet, there is this, the test that we have to do for more than one septic system on a block here in Colchester, the one that we've never done,
A nutrient.
Oh, the nutrient pat, and study,
Yes.
yeah.
And so you have to nominate all these hydraulic properties to that. And the range that exists in these aquifers is so massive that it's very hard to do that, like, meaningfully, to work out exactly what the hydraulic conductivity is gonna be in these aquifers and predict the flow of these pollutants through them.
So I know Department of Water Resource, and I know Sturgis, did some quick calculations for this Saddle Mountain aquifer. And he calculated that a particle travels 0.8 feet per day in this aquifer. So if it's 1 mile for the particle to move, it will take 15 years to go 1 mile. And then 3 miles, 45 years. So what we're seeing now may have come from 45 years ago. So we're trying to stop this trend and reduce
What
the.
you're talking about in the Saddle Mountain.
And it kind of would build up too, right? If you don't have enough rain, as you guys were saying, and to kind of dilute it, it might even build up because of how slow it moves, essentially.
Yeah, potentially, I think, yeah, it's a very complicated system then, so.
Now, I live at what we always refer to as the head of the, it's not true to the Lindsay Creek headwaters, but it's in the city limits headwaters of Lindsay Creek. And I have an engineered mound system. I have one of these systems because of the percolating issues. No one's ever asked to come up and check where I'm at. Never. I've been there 30 years.
I mean, we could, is that part of your area? Is that, where would that be?
22nd Street in Orchards.
Do you have a private well?
Well, I don't have a well, I have city water. I have a septic system.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, not a private well. I don't think there's any wells in the city of Lewiston, but I don't know. Maybe there is.
We don't check septic systems that they've been.
Yeah, I know, but as part of the study, no one's ever asked. Okay, anyway. Go ahead.
Is there a Saddle Mountain? A mountain called Saddle Mountain?
I think it just refers to
Just
the
the name of it.
the whole thing.
Depending where that aquifer was first identified, then there is, but that could be geographically, it could be, somewhere in Oregon.
This salt
Yeah.
lava flow, like
Yeah.
5 million years ago, it covered like Idaho.
Yeah, I know, and I tried to find Saddle.
I just hadn't heard that name before. I heard it as a
It's,
grand.
I just assumed it's the aquifer, the whole thing.
I like to use that name for everything. Yeah, like.
Yeah,
So it's not affecting regular, not septic, but regular kind of sewer from the city connection because it then goes into a large well that's deep enough that that's not a concern. Is that why? Because obviously you're going to continue
Talking
to,
about the waste,
yeah, for the waste.
like their drinking water or the wastewater disposal?
Well, I guess both. I mean, how come we don't find nitrate
I
from
guess
over?
like this is city, but the city of Lewiston has a wastewater treatment plant, obviously.
Right,
And
so
part
that,
of that, and they have a discharge permit. So they have to treat the wastewater to a certain level of nitrate before they can discharge it. So that's part of it, is that it's being physically treated.
I see.
And similar to goes with, I don't know what it comes in raw, but if their well is low enough, deep enough, we shouldn't see much nitrate in their drinking water, but the same situation, those are both regulated systems, whereas the output, like the installation of the system of a septic system is regulated, but the output of it is not. Same situation with the well, like the drilling of the well, regulated. What comes out of that well, what people are consuming, that's not something we'll just say, here's the information if you want us to come sample for you, but
It's
We
a
can't
private
tell you
well
what-
owner's responsibility to get water.
Okay, only reason I was asking, she mentioned if it was over, there's too many, the big household, too big of a household, like to withstand, it'd start to maybe leak or overfill, so I just didn't know if that was a similar system for the city, but that makes sense, it would go to the waste treatment plant that's gonna handle that. Okay, so one shouldn't be an issue for our.
Yeah, if it was an issue, it would be like, I think the sizing, you would have to have such a large household.
Yeah.
Then-
Or city in general,
Well, I think
would have
the
to
amount
be
of
big.
time kind of being more of like a lateral plumbing situation running into like a main line in city right of way that then goes down to the treatment plant.
I see.
Cause I know that we have seen like, just as development happens, you know, the sizing for like the plumbing, right, that goes out to that main line. That has to be sized appropriately, much like. a
Right,
septic
because
does.
there's restriction in the flow that you're gonna.
Yes,
That part. I
yes,
get.
but so that's, you know, like, and I have a licensed plumber is part of that deal, the sewer main line, that gets inspected, you know, when it's going into the city street. So those are similar, but different.
Okay, that answered, thank you.
I just have a couple of limitations that I just wanted to mention. So the septic rules don't require that anyone contact us to abandon a system. And so there may be connections made into the city sewer line that we're not aware of, that actually there are. And so, and I'm not sure the city can track that either, so. Numbers that are actually connected, you know, we're just not sure. The other thing that we're public health is doing is in our nitrate priority areas, and it's not just this one, we have Idaho County and Lewis County. When a property owner comes in to talk about a septic, there's alternative type systems that do nitrate removal more than a standard system, and so we just want to educate them on options so that they can make an informed decision on what type of system we want to put in. We don't have a mechanism for requiring that, but we are choosing to educate.
What would a nitrate removal system look like?
It's an extended treatment package system, so it has a septic tank and then it has another tank that has some like aeration in it. And then it's discharged into a drain field like normal, so it's really just like secondary treatment.
Kind of like a filter.
Kind of, yeah.
So suffice to say, it's probably a little more expensive.
It's considered a complex
Twice.
system like the sand mounds, yes.
Yeah.
They are components though that are manufactured, so you just put the components together, and there's pumps required and filters and things like that, and monitoring, and you have to test every year to make sure it's still functioning as it's supposed to.
And who does, oh, the homeowner does that.
The homeowner does it, or
They gotta have
a
some.
service provider.
Right. Interesting.
Great.
Thanks.
Does the board have any other questions for our very informative speakers? Okay, thank you guys so much for coming to.
Thanks so much.
All of the information. And then, you both, if you can, like, I'll give you your stuff back, well, maybe I'll just,
Yeah, you can just take it.
I'm just gonna download it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I can put it out to,
You want some notes from my, in the more funny.
I think I'm good. Okay. I think I wrote everything down. Okay. If I didn't, I'll just watch the video again.
Okay.
How I do my this.
Well, before we move on from this topic, it had nothing to do with the presentation, which was really good. Or I can bring up under board comments about the same, it's about,
Let's just move to board comments.
oh, is that the next thing? Okay. All right. So now that we've had the presentation, now that we know more than we probably ever knew about nitrates, the reason I asked him to present is so we all be more well informed. And now going back to why this area, East Orchard Sewer Revenue Allocation Area, was created. And I brought this up a number of times. So, and this is a letter that Katie actually put out October 7th of 2025. It's not the oldest letter developed when it was created in 2017 or 2019. 2017 says right here. but just excerpts from that refer to when it was created. Purpose of the law, which will be attained through the major goals of this plan, which is the sewer plan. There's 5 points made. 4 of them refer to nitrates. Elimination of 450 individual domestic wells, reduction of major sources of nitrates in the Lindsay Creek or Tammany Creek watershed. Avoiding an erosion of property values in the event of a septic system failure. Leverage funds from other local, state, and federal agencies, meaning through urban renewal, you can use other agencies' money. So 4 of the 5 reference a component of nitrates. Then this next paragraph, the proposed sewer main projects has 4 primary goals. The last one is to help to reduce the nitrate, nutrient, and fecal coliform, hey, what's coliform? E. coli levels in both Lindsay Creek and Tammany Creek by reducing the existing and future use of private septic systems. So my point is that you can see how much weight is attributed to this nitrate level or nitrate monitoring. This board has never, ever looked at monitoring data, has never looked at any of the data, never asked for any of the data until recently. That's the first time. And yet is the major component for the development of the project, the revenue allocation area, and bluntly taking the money from other agencies that not within the city limits that really and actually have very little say in it because of how members of this board other than the county. And
What was number 5?
School district. That was it.
No, you said you gave 4. What was the 5th? Oh.
Number 5, strengthening the tax base by encouraging and facilitating private investment in additional homes in the project area that would not be possible on septic systems. Meaning that because of the city's restriction on land development, you only can put 1 house on 1 acre versus 3, say, on an acre, which that's what I was trying to get to. What was the data in 1995 that created that restriction? Because now with the advent of new sewer system, new septic systems that filter out nitrates, you probably don't need that land restriction. But the city's not putting in septic systems as far as I know. Maybe they are. I'm not sure. So anyway, my point only is that the nitrates are the major issue with this revenue allocation you created. And if there's not a provable data report that shows, and we've kind of heard that there is an improvement being made, now it's simply a city project to get everybody on the sewer in city limits. Because this county doesn't have sewer, but the lots are much bigger actually too, so that is going to be the question going forward.
Well, but the 5th point on that was about economic development. And so part of the point of a sewer is that you're gonna have an increase in density and potentially easier, a better way of providing for economic development.
So that would be the only reason that.
I'm not saying it's the only reason, I'm
No,
just saying
it
that
would
there.
be the only reason.
So that in and of itself, if you are in an area where nitrates aren't a problem, you still would probably put in a sewer for economic development purposes. So that sometimes could in and of itself be a reason why you would do it.
So you would have to take the number of lots that were restricted. And at the time, I remember Anderson, 1995, Dan Anderson said there was 11 parcels that fell under this 1 acre restriction, probably more since then. And you would have to say that you are investing millions of dollars into a sewer system in order to develop these less than 20 parcels. Is that what you're telling me?
I don't know what the number is. I'm just saying in general,
Yeah,
in
you're
most.
just calling it economic development.
Correct. In most
Okay.
municipal jurisdictions, you build a sewer line with the expectation that that's going to promote more development, and that's going to promote more economic development if you have more people that are living in some
I'm not
places. I don't
saying
know the details of it. I'm just saying.
That's not a good idea for a city to do. Is it a good idea for the city to use other jurisdictions' money to do it?
You can make the argument that the economic development is going to be helping all those other jurisdictions. That's usually what happens with
How so?
your tax base could go up. If you're increasing the density around a sewer system area, those people
What
don't
tax
stay.
base does the county get from the city?
It doesn't
It
matter.
works in reverse. The city gets taxpayer dollars from the county. It doesn't work the other way. The county does not get city tax dollars.
My understanding is that when you have more people that are living in a given area, they're not just gonna stay in their houses, they're gonna go out and spend money in other places.
Yeah.
They're going to, potentially pay, I mean, economic development is generally a positive thing. And it raises all boats, and that everybody's taxes and tax base is going to increase when you do that.
At the end of the project,
Correct.
then there's greater value.
Correct, it's greater value for everybody.
I could go on about economic impact and values, septic tanks versus sewer. The assessor doesn't care. He doesn't care. It has a system, doesn't care, makes no difference. It's now been told that septic systems are available that filter out the nitrates. It really wouldn't even, I mean, you can make the argument, you wouldn't even have to invest in a sewer if there's the potential for these septic tanks or nitrate reduced levels. I don't know how to work that out, I think about it. I did have one question, maybe the city could answer. What is the level of nitrates that the city is allowed to release through their processing?
I am not a wastewater technician, so I do not know the answer to that. Luke, do you know the answer to that question?
Not off the top of my head, no, it's in our plans.
And health department monitors that?
It's Department of Environmental Quality, we oversee those permits in Idaho now, it transferred from the pool test. Also, again, all those permits are publicly available, and you can hear our data from them.
All I wanted to know is what is the level?
You'd have to double check on it, yeah.
So that would be the city could check on it all permit. Okay,
You can check it too.
okay, thank you. All right, that's all the information, and I think we're good.
Any other board member comments?
Just thank you for nitrate 101 course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's a great suggestion, and we learned a lot.
yep. Learning is always a good thing.
For board member comments, unrelated to this. But kind of related to another bullet point. I had a conflict on May 12th, the christening of the American Cruise Lines Condor is scheduled that day about 10. So I was going to be absent on the 12th anyway.
Is the item, are we canceling the May 12th meeting? That happens to be my birthday, so I don't really care either way, but if.
Yeah, I think on last month on my birthday.
I know, now I'm gonna have to sing happy birthday.
Currently, there aren't any other, scheduled agenda items. Usually, come June and July, then we start working on the budget, and we have a public hearing for the budget in August. But currently, I don't have any other, items of urgent need to come in front of the board, in May. So if the board so chose, we could cancel that meeting and then just resume in June when we start talking about budget.
Mr. Chairman, I would so move that we have a moratorium on the May 12th meeting.
That works for me.
Okay,
Happy
I will
birthday.
send out, so you will get like an agenda from me that acts like the cancellation. Okay.
Perfect. Were there any other staff comments?
That was the only one, was that we just don't have any other agenda items for that, meeting, so. Move forward with cancellation of that, and then get information for me for the June meeting.
Great. No birthday meeting.
Thanks all.
Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So move.
Second.
Okay,
All those.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against?
Well, I want to keep this meeting going.
Yeah.
Thirty today. County City
Oh,